Man, stressful weekend working on scripts to hit a tight deadline. Gonna take an hour or so and relax by watching this Marvel documentary. Oh no.
I've only started episode 7, The Marvel Method, of Marvel's 616 documentary series, and this episode highlights a broken aspect of the comic book industry. Everyone over at Marvel breaking their backs to accommodate one white, mediocre writer who fails to meet deadlines.
I would be embarrassed as F if the world saw that I was the laziest trash in my company.
Maybe this is supposed to be a passive-aggressive intervention.
I'm screaming! The man is so incompetent that they needed to bring in another writer to pick up the slack so that they could meet the deadline Slott was missing. Marvel made a documentary about how bad one of their writers is. You can't make this shit up! Sounds more like a Dan SLOTT, if you ask me. I have no horse in this race, and this dude just looks like a fucking moron who can barely do his job. He admits his artists are carrying his ass. LOL!
Poor Pete Woods, LMAO!
If you're enjoying this content, hit that subscribe button. Join us. Good evening, everyone. Comic Artist Pro Secrets. Ethan Van Sciver here, 27-year veteran of the broken comic book industry, world's most charming and disarming, elegant and eloquent, yet humble man, great big Star Wars fan, and trusted member of the media. So yesterday I was prompted by social media, by the interwebs, that I should tune into my subscription app of Disney Plus, because Disney Plus has this wonderful little Marvel Comics section, and then there's this thing called 616 that they're doing. 616 is a series of small documentaries about Marvel Comics and the comic book industry in various ways. Like, I didn't look at all the documentaries that were available in there, but one of them was like about cosplayers, and one of them was about Miles Morales, and then there was one called The Marvel Method, and that was the one that I was directed to. They said, Ethan, watch this documentary. So I watched it. The documentary was about Dan Slott, and Dan Slott is the writer of Spider-Man, Silver Surfer. I think he's writing Fantastic Four right now. Dan Slott is mostly a Twitter meltbrain, a Twitter-addicted meltbrain, and somebody who was a big part of why Comicsgate came into being. His behavior on social media was abysmal, and a lot of fans were put off by Dan Slott's mistreatment of them. He was a big focus of our concern and, our calls to change the way the comic book industry actually functioned and operated, asking for people to be more responsible and treat the comic book industry like a service industry, be kind to the customers and the fans, and create a product that would appeal to as many people as possible without insulting any of them if possible. So that was where Comicsgate came from, and so it was interesting to see Dan Slott as the focus of this documentary. Why Dan Slott? Why him? Why him? I really don't know. He's not particularly aesthetically pleasing. That's okay. They have younger, they have more efficient, more talented writers over there that would have been better for this documentary. Why Dan Slott? The only thing that I can think of after seeing this documentary is that this was a deliberate hit piece by Disney and by Marvel Comics on Dan Slott. Nothing else makes any sense. And if you look at social media today, you look at Twitter, you see the fans coming to the same conclusion. Why would they do this? Why would they put this on the air? This made all of them look ridiculous. This made all of them look like incompetent clowns. Just absolute buffoons. Lazy, stupid, silly, untalented, uninspired. All of those things. All of the things that explain away the quality of comic books that people are struggling to remain interested in today. Now, as a reaction to this overwhelming, and by the way, if you watch this documentary, you'll ask yourself, why did they think that? Why did anybody at Marvel think that this would get any other kind of reaction? Who knows? So as a response to this, Marvel Comics pros, SJW Marvel pros, including Pete Woods. I like Pete Woods. He's okay. He's in SJW. He's really very, very political. He poisoned, if you look at his social media, which I choose not to do too often. Pete Woods is standing up for Dan Slott, who is his writer du jour, and doing as much damage control as he can. And so are his fellow pros. They're all saying things like, you thought that was real? You dummies thought that was real. Oh, I'll bet you think everything you see on TV is real. That was just funny. That was a funny haha thing that we did. That was just, I'll tell you, we were only pretending to be idiots. Oh, dear. You got Pete Woods here who's saying, I see people dragging Dan like they actually had a crew following us for months and it proves he's a failure or something. Well, that was the impression that I was left with watching the documentary. Was the documentary meant to give me a different impression? Because it failed to do so. So we've got a documentary. Documentaries, yeah, they can be biased, okay? They're edited. They're heavily edited. But they're heavily edited to suggest, to drive home a conclusion, to suggest a conclusion in the minds of the viewer. And there can be no other. There is no other conclusion to come to when watching that 616 Marvel Method documentary than that, Tom Brevoort is an idiot who keeps hiring another idiot over and over again who is completely incompetent and continues to threaten Tom Brevoort's own continued employment at Marvel Comics. There is no other conclusion. And by the way, and all of the other people who are working alongside Dan Slott, who are also depending on Dan Slott and Tom Brevoort to get pages in so that they can pay their bills, their existence is threatened by these two gibbering goobers. That's the impression I came to. That's the impression that most of social media was left with. But I guess the joke's on us. I guess, boy, I'll tell you, question everything, right? It was just a joke. It's just TV, folks. I can't believe they think it's 100% real. Now, there are more pros. I'm not going to get into all the pros here. I'm just going to stick with Pete Woods because he is part of the documentary. And, when he says it's just TV, folks, he's quite right. He's referring to the fact that this documentary presents him as a rambler. He's a rambling man. He's on the road. He's got a pickup truck, and behind the pickup truck, a beautiful silver trailer that he drives around. I didn't see his wife. I don't know if he has any kids, but I didn't see any of his family with him. He's just on the road, and he just goes from place to place, and he parks by the beach. He settles in, takes out his stylus and his iPad, and he draws those pages for Dan Slott. Now, apparently none of that was true. According to Pete, they supplied him that trailer, which is interesting. So that was not real. Okay, that was TV. And I believe that might be real, except I went, where did Pete Woods get money for that trailer? There's no way Pete Woods made enough to buy that trailer. He's not Comicsgate. Comicsgaters make that kind of money, not mainstream pros. Okay, while the comic making process is real, it has to be embellished to make the episode interesting. No, I don't think it does. I think that you can put somebody who is naturally and obviously terrible at his job, and yet who has a big ego and a big personality, like me. I have a big ego and a big personality, but unfortunately I'm wonderful at my job, so I would not put across the same message as Dan Slott. You can put them in front of the camera, and you can caricature certain elements, certain aspects of their behavior, like sitting in a dark room and trying to write something and writing almost nothing, and then Twitter goes off and he's distracted by Twitter. That is true. That is a true part of who Dan Slott is. And so a slight caricature of that, and that actually tells the truth. And it is interesting. Incompetence is interesting, and it's hard to fake incompetence. It's difficult to fake. Those guys did a great job of presenting incompetence on the screen. Pete stands up for the writer who he depends on. He says, Dan can be slow, but he always got scripts in with time for me to draw them. Well, what about the letterer? Because I don't think the letterer was putting on a show. He was trembling and on the verge of tears while he broke into nervous laughter, explaining that the ball was always, the weight was always on his shoulders. He always got the pages too late. He'd stare at the pages without a script, and he couldn't do anything. And he would have to stay up all night on the last 24 hours just before the book goes to print, making sure that the pages got lettered, that there was editorial that would actually overnight send the pages back to him with corrections. And all of this suffering was because of Dan Slott, who at the end of the documentary was shown at a signing the comic book that I think, according to the documentary, he was responsible for about 3% of. It was everybody else's hard work, including Pete Woods. Pete Woods' artwork looked magnificent in this documentary, and he shined, and so did Christos Gage. He shined, and the letterer definitely was a pro. It was just the two giggling cutesy pies, the mama's boys, at the beginning of the documentary, Tom Brevoort and Dan Slott. And one wonders if this documentary wasn't produced by Disney as a pretext, as an explanation for why they are going to clean house and fire almost everybody there. And when they do it, when they fire everybody from Marvel Comics, just like what happened to DC Comics, and people say, why did you do that? Why did you fire? This is so sad. It's so sad that you fired all of these people. The House of Mouse, can simply point to this documentary and say, watch this. Because all of the internet watched it, and they are going to completely understand. Sorry, Pete. I appreciate it, but Occam's razor rules. Probably the simplest explanation explains it all. Dan Slott is incompetent. He is privileged. He is pampered, and he's just not a very good writer, and certainly not professional. He leans on Christos Gage, who's practically a ghostwriter at this point, doing most of the valuable work, and he gets all the credit for it. So, good stuff. Good stuff. I'm going to go with that explanation. I think that's what Disney wanted me to believe for some reason. And I think that's what I'm going to believe. Thanks, everybody who watched this video. I hope you enjoyed yesterday's video, too. If you did like it, do me a favor. Hit like, subscribe to my channel. We're fighting the algorithm, and we're actually winning. This channel was held back and suppressed by YouTube for a year. But I've been making my videos. You guys have been appreciating these videos, and you're showing me a little love by liking the video, subscribing to my channel, hitting the bell for notifications, and interacting with the video by simply typing a comment. What do you think of this? Do you believe that this documentary was a pretty fair depiction, albeit cute and funny? Do you think it was a pretty fair depiction of what goes on at Marvel Comics right now? The offices were barren and empty, and just, the word that people kept saying was depressing. Yeah, I agree. That was the feeling that I got too. Marvel Comics on its last legs, and this documentary explains why. Thanks, everyone. Here's the Cyberfrog ad. Please back Cyberfrog comics. They're in the description below. Wrecked Planet. Great. You're going to get a free toy if you back that comic book. And Cyberfrog Warts and All, the hardcover collection of all of the 90s Cyberfrogs, 416 pages for the low price of $30. Thanks again. See you again soon with another video. Hey Indiegogo backers, it's Cyberfrog, Warts and All, the complete collection of every Cyberfrog comic from the 1990s in one hardcover omnibus collection. More than 328 pages of frog fun gathered together for the first time ever for one low price, with plenty of amazing stretch goal bonuses to keep fans jumping. Back it today, only on Indiegogo. Hey, I got a P.O. Box. Want to send me some mail? Send it to Ethan Van Sciver, P.O. Box 607, Marlton, New Jersey, 08053. And I'll probably open it up on a live stream. Thanks very much, everyone. Hey, you want to follow me on Twitter? Are you sure? Well, if so, I'm at Ethan Van Sciver. That's at Ethan Van Sciver. See you there.